Welcome to the Proverbial Talk. This is the first episode I'm gonna make, and I'm gonna explain what the podcast is going to be about. I've had a lot of difficulties when it comes to like the technical side of things. So I've got the mics and everything. I've got a good camera, but the mics don't connect to the camera. The mics don't connect to my phone, to a tablet, to the laptop. I can't get apps on the laptop that I use for editing. So I've had quite a bit of difficulties just starting. But we're here, and I'm also really sick, so bear with me if you can't hear me. Then I will have to edit this if the sound's not good. But today's episode is gonna be 2 mics, no plan. The reason why it's 2 mics and no plan is because I actually had a business partner for this. I can't tell you his name, but basically we're long time friends, and we were supposed to do this together, but we fell out based on like personal stuff. You know, it was nothing to do with the podcast. Really had a good idea, so I thought I'll continue the idea despite the fact that he's not here. He had good equipment as well that was working on his phone and stuff. So that's why I have no equipment, so I'm just recording this on my phone. I think eventually it will improve, and I'll be sitting up and on my sofa, and I'll probably invite people on my podcast as well. But at the moment everything's quite rough, but bear with me, we will sort this out. The reason why the podcast is called the Proverbial Talk is because Proverbs are great wisdoms of the Bible, and I've actually got, for every episode, I'll take a proverb and read it to you, and then I'll explain what it means, or at least my interpretations of it, because a lot of people interpret the Bible how they want to interpret it. I have quite a bit of experience when it comes to reading the Bible, so roughly I know what it means, and I think everybody should take the Bible how it comes to them, not how the priest or any other preacher gives them the information, because that's their interpretations of it, and you should read it yourself and connect with the word yourself. And this is not going to be like a regular religious podcast where I tell you that this is the all right way. It is, in my opinion, because I'm Christian, but it can be applied to a lot of different things, a lot of life situations, and a lot of life struggles without necessarily having that religious, pressure of having to belong to one denominations of faith. Obviously, I know a lot of people have different faiths, some are atheists, but all these wisdoms that are in the Bible, they apply to everything, if you really think about it, or if you're wise enough to know that. So Proverbs mean wisdom, and wisdom is not like knowledge. Knowledge is gained, wisdom is sort of experienced and learned through experience, more than like you can't just learn about it. Yeah, you can hear about it, but how you become wise is really through error, trial and error. You need to make those mistakes and fail and get hurt, and go through all these things to be able to become wise and not make the same mistake again, and protect yourself and develop discernment. The first proverb for this episode, the only one, but the first of this podcast is going to be, For the Lord giveth wisdom, out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. So you see, the Lord giveth wisdom, so he gives the wisdom to us. While we can hear it as well, straight from source, but what comes through his mouth is knowledge and understanding. So just knowledge on its own means nothing, but with the understanding of knowledge of what it actually means, how to apply it, who to apply it to, when to not apply it, and all these other things is what creates wisdom. So you have to have that application of it. I'm going to talk about other things as well that aren't really related to it, because it's the first episode, so I need to really get on with explaining what spirituality is and how to really benefit from it. So I wanted to talk about the veil. The veil is something that is between us and the other worlds. So, or the other world. I'm gonna say it in a singular term, because if I say words, you're gonna be like, what? There's other words. Yeah, there is other worlds. There is other dimensions. The veil is what separates us from the rest. So this is just our little bubble, our little earth, and the rest is the rest. Majority of people, they don't have the sight to see beyond the veil. And what beyond the veil means is you're able to get guidance from spirits. This is where a lot of other things come into play. You're not able to have foresight, which is seeing into the future. These are a lot of these things that you would call them supernatural, superstitious, not true. A lot of people will put it down to mental health, like people that have mental health. We call them gifts. We don't call them struggles, because they are able to hear things or see things that essentially are through the veil, but they are being classified as a disadvantage or as an illness in this world, and that's not necessarily true. It might hinder the so-called performance in this world or their experience, but that doesn't necessarily make it an illness. And trying to medicate those things, and put these people down is wrong. When in doubt or questioning something for which you're in need of moral advice, so this is when you are able to ask God for the wisdom, or ask the spirits beyond the veil, or your ancestors, for example, for guidance into what you need to do, moral advice. So sometimes you're not able to ask the living, basically, is what I'm saying. When you ask your neighbor, your sister, your friend, they'll give you advice based on their experience of the world, and you might have a different experience, and the advice that they're giving you might not apply. What you might need is guidance from spirits, from dead ancestors from the past, from God Himself, to be able to make the right decision. So this is where that comes in. And moral dilemmas are something that we're often like, oh, what do I do? Where do I go from here? How do I deal with the situation? For example, you have a struggle, right? And you're like, do I take revenge, or do I give up? You have all these crazy thoughts, at least I do. Or do I not say anything, not get involved? There's a lot of these questions you have, and you might think to yourself, I don't have nobody to tell me where to go. And if I ask people, if I ask them, what do I do? Do I take revenge? They might push you towards that, or they might push you to giving up, or they might influence you in another wrong way, which might not be helpful to you. Which is why we don't do that. However, saying that, in the Bible, it also talks about having a wise counsel. A wise counsel is people in your life that you cherish for their advice and their opinion. Meaning, for example, your father. Your father is a very, I don't have a father, but I've had a father figure in my life. And they usually have certain wisdoms that, let's say, women don't have or mothers don't have, and that's really important. And a lot of the times, even though men have their struggles and a lot of things that they do wrong in life, they have wisdom about honor, about sacrifice, about things that women don't know of, or about things that don't apply to women, and women can't give that advice from their experience. Yes, and the moral of that is that even though we have the moral counsel, right? The wise counsel, sorry, I meant. Not all information from the wise counsel is useful. So if somebody gives you advice, let's say to give it time. I've had this advice recently, to give the situation time. No matter the frustration, the emotion behind the situation, give it time. And that was the hardest decision that I've probably made, is give something time. Let it simmer, let it sit, just let the situation sit. And why? I didn't know why in the beginning when I got the advice. I thought, I'm so frustrated, I can't let this be, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I was wrong then. But now I understand that giving things time will help time fight for you. So in time, the person that essentially or the person or the situation that you're fighting against is gonna destroy itself. So whatever they're using, whatever the weapons they're using against you, right? Let's say it's somebody's lying, right, about you. In time, the contradictions from their lies will get revealed and they will get exposed. So you essentially won't need to do anything. They will destroy themselves. So that is the advice from the wise counsel. Not everything the person that gave me that wise counsel is true, but that was, and I didn't see it until a few months afterwards when it started clicking, all this advice that people gave me started making sense and started actually being useful. Knowledge and wisdom from God is the ultimate information that is hidden in plain sight. So apart from the wise counsel, like I was talking about, in the beginning, there's just God. So if you are able, and majority of people, like they can't, 90% of people, they don't understand connection to source. So connection to life and death, to the end and to the beginning and the end. When you have connection to that, you essentially know everything. Like as corny as it sounds, you have all knowledge, just like God is all powerful, all knowing, all loving, and all, that's what you get in a percentage. So you don't get everything at once because you wouldn't be able to exist in the human experience to have that. But you're able to access that and use that for yourself. I think I'm going to finish with that because it's a lot of information in one episode. So I'm just going to remind everybody. I'm going to do, in the end of every episode, I'm going to do sponsorships. So at the moment, I don't have any sponsorships. I had one, but it fell through. So what I'm going to do is just promote my company, and I'm going to encourage you to use my podcast and my platform, because I have a lot of social media followers and stuff like that, to reach out to me with your products or your services or your company, and I will give you your little 5 minutes on here, or 1 minute, depending on what your product is. And then you can, and then I can talk about your products and stuff. And not sure how it's going to work. It's going to have to be between me and you, how I promote your business and what kind of sponsorship deal we have. But I'm open to everything. My business is, I do epoxy resin products. I do a lot of other things, but that's just what I do. So I'm going to link this in the description somewhere in the comments. I'm not sure how I'm going to make this video work and how I'm going to publish it, but that is it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed my wisdoms from today, and I'll see you in the next episode.